Hello, human. My name is Tom Jacobs. I'm on the web at tdjacobs.com and also healingsuicide.com. This is kind of a non sequitur video. There's all these dozens of videos that are on my list to produce when I have some free time and I'm in the right place. But this is something that's just it's been on my mind for years, but I don't talk about it much. Sometimes in a class, a sentence or two comes out. Um, it's about love. It's about what love is, where it comes from, and who, sorry, this is so awkward. I always do this. One, two, three. Uh, and who's responsible for giving it to whom? That's a teaching that comes through Ascended Master Jehudi, also known as Hermes, Thoth, Saint Germain, Merlin. And he says every human has the original quote is every human has a pile of relationships. And he meant like sometimes debris in our past, a pile, just a junk pile of relationships. Not that the relationships are junk, but relationships in which we find out we can't get what we need. Ultimately, he says, the goal is to learn to become the source of love for the self. And in spiritual New Age circles, we talk about self love and self care all the time. What does it mean? What does self love mean? Some people will then go to self care and talk about, different avenues toward that. And what we do over here in Jehudi's workshop is work on really practical applications, practical solutions to different things, including this. This is how I can work with Jehudi. I can't channel a being who says, oh, dear earthlings, your spirit family loves you. Keep at it. Hang in there. It's hard right now. I can't expletively do that. So he says, here's how to make your life better. Here's how to do this. So I've stuck with him. It's been quite a long time now. And so every human cycles through these questions and sometimes struggles and chasing sometimes what love is, where it comes from, and who's responsible for giving it to whom. When we're children, we're in a state of needing support, safety, love, care. So everything's about love. As we mature and grow up, we learn to individuate, which is part of the process of becoming the source of love for ourselves. We can substitute love, we can substitute validation for love. Become the source of validation for the self. Yet, we need each other as humans. So for a very long time, I've been working with teachings that at first blush can seem to be contradictory. You have to become, as a human, your soul's mission is to become the source of love or validation for yourself. Yet we need each other. We reflect to each other. This is another part of Judy's teaching. We reflect to each other. I reflect to you where you are in the process of learning to love yourself. Because there are naturally things that I cannot give you. Right? This idea every human has a history or a pile of relationships. We're dealing with the aftermath of it, of not being loved the way that we need. The idea being if you're denied validation, you got to create it for yourself. If you're denied recognition, acknowledgement, celebration, well, you got to create it for yourself. But what we as humans do, we carry forward, and there's no criticism of you, human, because I do it too, until I learn how to grow beyond it. I take that inner child mindset of I have a need that needs to be met, and I go looking for someone who may meet that need. Or I don't, and I sit there and stare out the window, but or watch Star Trek reruns or whatever. But I have a need for validation. But now I'm working with this Jehudi teaching. That was not a mistake because it makes me crazy sometimes because I have all this Libra stuff. I am looking for validation from other people. So we need each other, but we need to become the source of validation for ourselves. How does this work? Other people reflect to us things about ourselves that we need to own and keep, or own and get rid of. You keep the good stuff, you get rid of the crappy stuff. Let's say that I meet somebody socially, friendship or romantic sexual thing, and this person, for some reason, in some way, activates jealousy. Well, okay, I understand something I need to work through. What if this person brings out my smart aleck nature in a very inappropriate way? Like, I want to make jokes and they're all inappropriate. Okay, let me work on that. What if this person brings out my intellectual side? Well, that can be great. Or conversely, if a person brings out a know-it-all side or whatever, it could be positive or negative. Like, there are people I've been with who brought out my humor, and sometimes that's like class clown disruptive, and sometimes it's beautiful. So people bring things out of us that we need to see and either embrace and keep, or make peace with and shed or heal. So I said this is about love. And we can do this whole inquiry with other people in different ways. And something I've been learning about for some years is no matter what term I use for it, it's going to bother some people. I put it in the title of the video just so you know what it's really about, though it's a teaching about love and not what we assume open relationship or polyamory would be about. Most of us, all of us, have been conditioned to think about the kind of the ultimate goal of relationship is stable marriage. Well, it doesn't have to be. So in this idea of we bounce into each other and learn about ourselves, what if, well, I'm trying to keep things in order. I've done well so far, but now I'm just like thinking about different scenarios I've learned from, and I want to offer comments, but I don't want to do it out of order. I'll just give you a little, as linear a story as I can about my background with this. So as I mentioned, I have a bunch of Libra stuff, including, if you're into astrology, I have Pluto conjunct Venus and Libra in the 12th house. So in the 12th house. So I'm learning about what love really is in a, not necessarily in a spiritual way, but I'm learning how to understand the bigger picture. That's a 12th house thing about love. But Pluto in the 12th also says there's been loss. So I'm learning how to let go as well. And all Plutonian journeys have to do with learning how to let go. Ultimately, if I put my little spiritual teacher hat on, I'd say the Plutonian journey for any of us, Scorpionic journey, 8th house journey, if you're into this, the astrology stuff, is to learn to be fully present and open, which means vulnerable, but really like engaged in the dynamic, and learn how to let go. So I have had kind of an attachment thing. Part of me, I think, was always looking for safety because I was carrying unprocessed loss from various lives, past lives. I typically call them my soul's other lifetimes, because the emotions from those lives can feel real right now. And the teaching from Jehudi is that all the lifetimes are happening from the soul's point of view simultaneously. And I've gotten a lot of I've had a lot of experiences and have had a lot of energetic work done on me by invisible beings, invisible friends, that connects me more to those emotional depths from other lifetimes. So a lot of things for me feel real across time. You too, it's just you may not be as in touch with it in the same way that I am. But when you get triggered by something and suddenly you're like, I don't know, terrified of sharks, you don't know any sharks in this life. You've never hung out with sharks, no sharks, whatever. You have a sense, oh, maybe there's a past life memory or fear or trauma or something. So I've had a lot of experience with that regarding loss and things like this. So part of me, if I love somebody, part of me would cling and be codependent. And it's been kind of challenging and difficult to work through. And I think I'm there in many ways. I think I'm worked through that. We're really dealing with some past life loss, like meeting people I've lost in other lives and really working through that. mostly myself, mostly by myself. So for me in my younger years, the worst thing would be an open relationship. Because to think about the person I'm relying upon for my sense of safety and security, dating someone else too? What? Like that was so difficult. So years ago, let's see, it's 2024 right now in your world. When are we? It's 2024. I guess this is 2006, 18 years ago. I started dating a woman who said, I'm all about polyamory or open relationships. And in our world, when you use that phrase, people think, oh, so you want to have sex with more than one person and have it be okay. That's what people assume it means. That's not what it means. That's a very low level understanding of it. That's very stereotypical. Open relationship, polyamory, whatever. So the point was, she knew this years before I did. No one person can bring out of you all that you need to see about yourself. I was really challenged. The idea of it, the prospect was very upsetting. And she said, you can make me leave you by not having this dialogue with me, by not, okay. And I felt like, pressed up against a wall, whatever. And after that, this is funny. I'm telling you it's funny before I tell you the funny thing. That's my trick. I met a dude in our spiritual community, so to speak. I knew she was going to meet him, and I knew that she would be really into him. Well, that brought up my insecurities on different levels. And 3 weeks later, she says, I ended up meeting this guy and I wanted to hang out with him. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I said his name. And she was like, what? Where did you, how do you? And I said, oh, I met him and I knew you'd like him. Like I met him like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I was really jealous because he had a confidence I didn't think I could have. He just exuded peacefulness in his body and in his heart, his spirit. And he seemed to me more evolved than me, and I felt insecure. Okay. So there's that, number one. She ended up hanging out with him 2 or 3, 4 times, whatever. And that was that, just whatever. And then after a year, we were done and everybody moved on. No problem. And then when I met the woman I've been with for 13 years, when I met her, she had in a previous relationship explored some open relationship stuff. And we talked about it. And I was a little freaked out about it still, right? Which is some years later, five-ish years later, something. And I was not open to it. Then she became ill. And we couldn't have the kind of relationship we wanted. And she said, I don't want you to be unhappy. I don't want to hold you back. Maybe we should talk about the possibility of an open relationship if you need to date other people. Also, because we couldn't really date, she was having all these health issues. But we love each other. We loved each other. We love each other. So we talked about it, and I'm not kidding. We read a book. We read a book. We talked about it. We even went to a meeting of people who were exploring this for various reasons. Like the couples would show up and talk about these learning experiences. And there are a couple interludes, like a couple of like she kind of dated a couple guys for a couple weeks, whatever. And I kind of dated a woman for a few weeks. We and none of these things blossomed. And so we went back to our normal rhythm of not doing. And then I have a hard time with the timeline, but then more recently, I ended up having a connection with another person, another woman. And what I want to talk about, I don't need to share a bunch of details about all these people or whatever, but what I want to talk about is the assumptions that we have from our cultures and families and traditions and religious groups, whatever, about what love is, where it comes from, and who's responsible for giving it to whom. And I want to talk about what it's really about. Somebody brings out something in you that you need to see. Now, that could take 5 minutes. Waiting in line for a salad in an airport. Or it could take months or a year. It could take a long time. But people show up in your life when you need to see something about yourself and own it and keep it, or own it and shed it. So when someone says open relationship and a stereotype and a judgment come up, they haven't been exposed to thinking about what love is. So is love that if you and I are in a relationship, I derive my security from our stability? Is that what love is? No, that's fear-based. And I'm not criticizing the vast majority of humans on Earth right now, almost everybody, who may do that. But we need to think about these assumptions in order to advance along our, frankly, spiritual paths. What is love? We talk about love all the time in New Age circles and spiritual work. Again, we talk about self-love, self-care, whatever. Well, what does it actually look like? What does love mean to you? So I would invite you to think about the people you love, both friends and family and romantic sexual relationships. Think about what they bring out of you that you love about yourself. That's what's really going on here. I meet you, you bring something out of me. I need to see and own, or see and shed, or see and release. So what part of me is having a relationship with you if I derive security from our relationship? What am I trying to get through this dynamic? What do you think love is? Where do you believe it comes from? Who should, in your belief, provide it to whom? Who's responsible for loving you? What in your relationships are you responsible for? This came up, this idea for this video came up because, as I said, I've been thinking about it for a long time, really sometimes being super challenged from different angles. This came up because I was talking to somebody and the topic came up, and it occurred to me that, like, if I'm relying upon somebody I'm in a relationship with for my security, my sense of being okay, and that person comes to me and says, I met someone, there's a little spark, I want to explore it. I thought about why would I respond negatively? Because I realize when I love somebody, I want that person to be happy. And for me, that's a basis of relationship, not what that person does for me or is for me. The other thing that came up in that conversation was the perception that many have that when you're in a relationship, you have to sacrifice something about yourself, which I believe can breed resentment later. Do what you do because of love is the invitation, but that's also the challenge. So my partner, being unable to be my partner, says, I don't want to I love you, I want to be with you, but if you need to explore the relationships to be fully human, I want you to be happy. It's not, I'm afraid you're going to leave me. Those fears do come up. Like with the woman I dated years ago. That guy was very attractive, and I felt like a turd. Felt very unattractive. And he was like an Adonis. And I was like, that's when I saw him, I was like, oh, she's gonna meet him. Holy shit, she's gonna meet him, you know. And I did feel that she was much more attractive than I am, and we worked on that too, and I just had a lot of work on that to do. But if I'm afraid somebody's going to leave me, well, okay, then I need to deal with that fear, right? This person's helping me see that fear. The idea of sacrifice was coming up in the convo I was having earlier today. And that you do certain things for the partner. You put the partner first. And we were both like, no, you put yourself first so you can effectively give when it works for you, when you can. It's just challenging this whole patriarchal notion of what love is, where it comes from, who's responsible for giving it to whom. The other detail is you change over time. It is inevitable that each party in a relationship changes over time. So if you are in a committed marriage or partnership, or you just have understandings about commitment, right? Maybe it's a long-term partnership with no legal document or something. You will change over time. So what things in you do you need to see over time that another person can or might bring out? So you can own it and keep it, or own it and release it. You don't know what those things are until you find out something is trying to happen, or you are pulled to somebody, or somebody is pulled toward you, or it's mutual, whatever. So self-validation is the goal, that you learn who you are and accept it, and accept who you are. Like I said, it could happen when you're waiting for a salad at an airport and it take 5 minutes, or it could be a longer term thing. But the point is that we need each other in order to keep growing. And no one person can be all things to another person. And stop trying to make that happen. Because then somebody is sacrificing something, and it may brew or build resentment. So look at why you're doing what you're doing. I use the example with the person I was talking with about let's say that I met somebody who said what I really want in a partner is a person who like do these things with me at these certain times every week, like go to this particular farmer's market. And well, like let's say it's me in this dynamic, the other person. And well, I don't do well with set schedules. I'm very Uranian, very Uranian. I have a strong Uranus, which can, and also Lilith. And these energies can be changeable and unpredictable and need change, need freedom, and even autonomy. So I want partnership, but I don't want to be locked into going to the same place every Tuesday at 2. I don't want that. Well, but it would make her happy. So then after a while, I feel like I'm sacrificing something. So knowing and accepting myself, I would need to say early on in that dynamic, I can do that sometimes. Not so big on schedules. So I can have certain commitments with you, but maybe not that kind of thing every week. Or, I don't know, watching some TV show that I don't like, that she likes. Can't agree to that. We'll find things we like together so that nobody is miserable, nobody is sacrificing. So putting someone else first and doing things for that person, put yourself first. Then you're more available. But then you have to be more picky about who you're spending time with. That's the other hard part about this. Because when you're honest with yourself about what you don't like, it narrows the field of people you're available to enjoy being with. Which leads to another kind of question. Are you in a relationship so you don't have to be alone? Are you in this relationship because you don't want to hurt the person by saying, I don't know if I want to be with you. I don't know if we're compatible. I don't think this is right for me. Have you had relationships that kept going when you really wanted to stop them? I think it's a human thing. Don't judge yourself if that's true. I mean, we don't learn what does and doesn't work for us until we experience it. So where does love come from? What is love? Where does it come from? Who's responsible for giving it to whom? If you think it comes from other people, I'm inviting you to undertake this self-inquiry, to ask yourself these questions and process through your past relationships, your present relationships, your family history, to get a sense of what part of you is in this relationship or that relationship. What is part of you trying to get? And why? So, as I said, when you say polyamory or an open relationship, our brains often go to, oh, so you want to exploit of other people, or oh, that's about sex, or you just want to F that person and you want to get away with it, or whatever. Try not to use offensive language. Which I seem to do a lot, but I'm trying not to today. Gosh darn it, I think I swear all the time. Anyway, it's really hard to say. Gosh darn it. So your spiritual growth is enhanced and enabled by deeper self-awareness. You know, I'm not preaching to you about polyamory. It's literally not for everybody. But what it's taught me, and this is one thing I just wanted to share because it is a joy inside my heart. I didn't know this. I had read it in a book, but I didn't know this as an experience until I did. When I was getting to know this woman I'm involved with now, not the long-term partnership, but this combo that's been developing for, I can't even remember how long, a year. Oh, gosh, I literally am going to misquote it, a year and a half, I don't know. And it's a long distance thing. So we haven't even met in person. She's in another part of the world. But as this connection deepened and I felt love for her, I love my partner even more. And that's how I knew that this was a good thing for me. Oh, there's one other note I should have said. Everybody knows everything, not intimate details, but everybody knows about everybody else. That's key because there are no secrets. It's a way of being loving, which includes honesty. And so sometimes people who engage in this or begin this, they'll have to have long conversations with a person in an existing relationship. And the woman I've been with for 13 years, we've had those conversations. So there are no secrets, is what I'm saying. Not every detail is shared, but there are no secrets. So as I love one more, I love the other one automatically more also. So I knew that this was love and not security because I couldn't rank the two people. I could say, well, person A brings these kinds of qualities of mine out, and person B brings these other qualities of me out. Those are different feeling states. And at different times, I may need to be, so to speak, the person I get to be with that one person or the other. But you can't rank them. Maybe there's a sense of a part of you has felt unseen by the first person, and the second person comes in and sees that part of you. That's an experience I'm having. And I've been craving what the second person brings out of me. So part of me might be inclined to like rank her as more important, but that's like a short-term recalibration process instead of it being a deep truth that one person's more important to me. You may have had the experience of having your heart opened in a relationship with one person, and the world is more colorful, songs are more beautiful. You know, you may have had that experience of when your heart opens, it opens. And when that happens with two different, very different kinds of people, kind of blew my mind. It kind of blew me away. And is one of the magical experiences of being a human in my book. Because it wasn't that I was with somebody, then I met somebody else, and I was like, you know, that first person, she can go to hell. I don't love her. I don't care about her. Well, no, that was already a loving state, a loving space. And the second person brings out different things about me that feel wonderful. I feel like if I keep going, I'm just meandering and what do you call it? Like just wandering around, you know, and so I might end the video very soon. Let me just check in with myself and see if there's something else. Well, I just want to end with the invitation for you to understand in yourself the different motivations that occur. Love versus fear. Am I doing this because of love? Am I doing this because of fear? And in every single one of us, there are both motivations. And the first order of business would be to become more aware of why you're in this relationship or whatever. But the second order of business would be to refuse to judge whatever you learn. Because if I say, as I say, you know, is it fear or love? If you find out it's fear, you might judge yourself. But you are in the process of learning about who you are as a human. This is the journey of all humans, to learn and then to learn to validate ourselves. So I'll leave it here. I don't know if I'll do more videos like this in the future, but I just really want to talk about this experience because it's been, it sounds like a weird thing to say. It's been an outstanding experience. Throw a comment card. I put stars all over it before I put it in the little box when I left. It's been a really great experience to learn what love is not and what love is. Anyway, I'm on the web at tdjacobs.com. Thanks for your time and energy. And I hope some part of this, you know, may have been helpful for you. Okay, bye-bye.